If you've ever seen a slasher movie, you know that Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, and Jason Voorhees live to kill. Right, die to kill. They'll exist in some kind of endless, poorly defined limbo between life and death, but you get what we're saying. They're here on this planet, or on occasion in a shuttle orbiting this planet, to chew bubblegum and kill teens, and one wonders if their jaws are even functional enough to chew bubblegum. But here's the thing, are they any good at it? Between Mike Myers...
Yeah, baby!
No, not you. Between Mike Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger, who has the most impressive kill count? And who's the most effective danger to horned-up adolescents? Well, we're gonna find out. Armed only with strong stomachs, mom and dad's permission, 3 plastic jack-o'-lanterns full of mini Snickers, and of course, our Fanda AI analytics protocol.
Why didn't we include the greatest slasher of them all, Sleepaway Camp?
It's kind of problematic. We don't talk about that one much anymore. Alright, let's get into it. These are the top movie slashers by the numbers. To determine our ultimate slasher from this terrifying trio, we're isolating a few metrics from all of their films. We're looking at their total kills, the number of potential victims they allow to get away, which we're calling escapes. Plus, we're examining those occasions where the slasher appears, at least temporarily, to have been killed. All official in-canon licensed appearance by these slashers counted for our totals, including those occasions where the series was rebooted or recast. Jackie Earle Haley dreams carry the same weight as those conjured by Robert Englund. We're not including kills from any films in their respective franchises that don't actually feature the main slashers themselves. So, deaths in the original 1980 Friday the 13th are not on the list because that's Pamela Voorhees doing the slashing, not sweet little Jason. He would never. We're also including known victims that the killer definitely slashed, which are discovered by other characters during the film, even if the slashing itself happened off screen. That includes dogs, a particular favorite of Mr. Myers. Max! Oh, Max. As for escapes, we're counting any time a victim enters the slasher's kill zone while they're conscious and then gets away safely, even if it's just temporary. So a single victim can get credited with multiple escapes if they're slippery enough. And finally, as for those apparent deaths, well, these guys die and come back all the time, so it's really on some level a judgment call. But we're not counting any time they just take a tumble or fall over. You're not fooling me with this shit, Myers. You get up and walk away like 2 seconds later. No, it has to be an extended enough period of apparent death to convince people in the reality of the movie that the threat is gone. Like Freddy being ripped apart and then sealed away in time at the end of The Dream Child. That seems definitive. Or so you'd think. Alright, enough with your rules. Fanda, let's get slashing.
Are you sure I'm allowed to scan through these mature themes? My software is not even 10 years old.
We'll just tell people we're analyzing Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Good plan.
Let's get started with Michael Myers. A few things about the Halloween films that had some impact on Michael's overall score. 1, we weren't able to include numbers from his latest outing in Halloween Kills, but we'll do some back-of-the-envelope math at the end to see how that film could affect the final scores. And 2, he got off to a relatively modest start in the first few Halloweens, limiting his activity to people in single locations, a suburban street, a mostly empty hospital, all over the course of just one night. Michael doesn't jump into double-digit kills per film until Halloween 4, and doesn't start racking up the big murder counts until the remakes from Rob Zombie and David Gordon Green. That's inflation for you. Teen murders just don't go as far as they used to. Michael's killingest movie, in fact, is Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween remake, in which he takes out 21 victims, several when he's still just a boy. Get him started doing murder early. That's Sherry Moon Zombie's parenting philosophy in a nutshell. It's also worth noting just how cold-blooded and ruthless Michael can be, which naturally helped to boost his numbers. Unlike Freddy, who frequently targets specific victims as part of a quest for vengeance, or Jason, who mainly focuses his killings on the horny, Michael Myers sadistically seeks to rack up as many victims as possible with no real discernment. He even takes out people who were nice to him and nursed him back to health. Bad form, Mike. Okay, armed with that context, let's take a look at how Michael performed throughout the franchise.
Scanning. Scanning. Analysis complete. Displaying results.
Michael Myers appears in a total of 10 films and racks up 132 total kills, including 3 dogs. 46 potential victims get away, making his kill-to-escape ratio 2.87. That also gives Michael 13.2 kills per film, compared to just 4.6 escapes. On top of that, he appears to die 4 total times. Here's a good example of a definitive seeming death from Halloween 2, in which he gets both eyeballs shot out and then exploded. We're also counting this apparent death from Halloween 4, although honestly, they really should have gotten down there in the hole and taken his pulse. After 3 go-rounds with this guy, it's worth being sure. Okay, let's move on to our next competitor. The Nightmare on Elm Street series and Freddy Krueger.
I just got screamed at by Freddy Krueger. All I said was, what'd you do to my table?
We can say this about Freddy Krueger at least. He was the most difficult slasher on our list to evade. In 9 total Nightmare films, Freddy only lets 42 potential victims get away, the lowest total of any of our 3 killers. I mean, this makes some sense. He traps you in your dreams. Where are you going to go? Getting away from Michael Myers just requires an open path and limbs. But having said that, Freddy's easily the least kill crazy of all 3 of our competitors. He's got an agenda, he's going after a specific subset of victims, and he's singularly focused on his goal. By far his most homicidal turn is in 1985's Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and this is massively aided by the fact that a lot of potential victims gather on their own for a ill-fated pool party. That's 6 out of the film's 11 kills right there. Reminder, always wait at least an hour after being stalked by an undead specter that can invade your dreams before getting into the pool, kids. Final note on Freddy, we decided to count new nightmare kills as part of Freddy's total, even though technically this is not the spirit of the dead janitor Fred Krueger doing the killing, but a demonic entity that has taken his form. Because is there really, in an ontological sense, a difference between being the ghost of Freddy Krueger and a spectral entity taking the form of Freddy Krueger? Please spend the rest of the day thinking about this and get back to us in the comments below. While you're doing that, we'll fire up the Fanda and see how Freddy performed overall.
Scanning. Scanning. Analysis complete. Displaying results.
You're in my world now, bitch!
Over the course of 9 films, including the one where he's not really Freddy but a demon who's pretending to be Freddy because it's like super meta, Freddy kills 44 people and allows 42 potential victims to get away. This means he takes out just 1.05 folks for every person that gets away from him. His kills per film count is also pretty low, at just 4.89, with 4.67 escapes. On top of that, he has the same number of apparent on-screen deaths as Michael Myers, with a total of 4. This includes having his own daughter take him out by placing a pipe bomb inside his body.
Happy Father's Day.
Wow, that's harsh. What did he ever do to... Oh, right, all the murders, right. Just one more contender here to go before we crown a Halloween king.
I am the Pumpkin King!
Oh, he couldn't even kill Santa. Get lost, Jack. Let's turn our attention to Jason Voorhees, but first, we should take a moment to consider Freddy vs. Jason, a film in which 2 of our 3 slashers actually face off. In an indication of just how this competition is playing out overall, Jason mops the floor with Freddy on this one. He ultimately wins the final face-off, though for the record, Freddy remains alive enough to wink. But Voorhees blows Krueger away on stats, with 18 total kills in the film versus a mere 2. Jason's not even the main slasher in 2 of his franchise's films. In part 1, it's his mother Pamela doing the killing, and then in part 5, A New Beginning, it's some guy named Roy. Another potential strike against Jason is that he's facing off against some extremely capable final girls. Take Dana Kimmel as Chris in Friday the 13th Part 3. Not only does she survive through the end of the film, long enough to stop Jason dead in his tracks with an axe to the face, but she also gets away from him on 8 separate occasions, a single film final girl record for any of these movies. Much higher degree of difficulty here than, say, Jamie Lloyd, a little girl Michael Myers required 3 films and nearly a decade of franchise time to take out. Oh, so close! Come on, Mike, get there! She's already grown up! You're blowing this! Ugh, finally. But back to Jason. Let's turn his films over to Fanda and see what those stats look like.
Scanning. Scanning. Analysis complete. Displaying results.
Across the Friday the 13th series, Jason kills 160 victims and allows 59 people to get away, for a total of 2.71 kills for every escape. That also gives him 16 kills per film total, with only 5.9 escapes permitted per adventure. Which brings us to the question of how many times Jason Voorhees seemingly dies on screen. Definitely a subjective judgment considering medical science's total inability to explain his continued existence. That axe to the face in Part 3 certainly seems to take him out for good, as does being repeatedly cleaved with a machete at the end of Part 4. As he's left to drown at the bottom of a lake in both the 6th and 7th chapter, it seems reasonable to include both of these as apparent deaths as well. And in 1993's Jason Goes to Hell, he is literally dragged to hell at the end, which seems rather definitive. But what to make of this sequence in Jason Takes Manhattan when sewer sludge doesn't so much kill him as revert him to his childhood form? We're not counting this as an apparent death, only because we really want to stop talking or thinking about it ever again. So let's just say 5 total Voorhees expirations. Pulling all those numbers together, Jason Voorhees earns the title of most homicidal slasher, with the biggest overall kill count and the most kills per film in which he appears. However, after watching Halloween Kills, Myers will in all likelihood surpass both of these numbers, with dozens of kills and very few escapes by our rough count. I mean, did you see him take out those firemen? The dude is thorough. And furthermore, Jason is also the most vulnerable, at least in the short term, with 5 apparent deaths at the end of his films compared to 4 each for his 2 rivals. Michael Myers takes the number 1 spot if we're scoring based on who's the most effective and efficient killer. He takes out 2.87 people for every victim he allows to flee, compared to just 2.71 for Jason. Sure, it's a razor-thin edge, but those are Michael's favorite kinds of killing implements anyway. This is particularly impressive, as Michael Myers is the guy who, with only a few Cult of Thorn exceptions in the middle there, spends the majority of his films depicted as just a large man who loves murder, as opposed to some kind of supernatural being. Freddy had the lowest numbers of any of our killers across the board, only taking out about 1 victim for every 1 he lets get away, and averaging fewer than 5 kills per film. He definitely gets creativity points though. He's spending a lot more time at the brainstorming and R&D stage than his competitors, and it shows. And that's what the numbers have to say about who's doing the most slashing to whom and when. Did the results line up with your own expectations? Who would you least want to face off against this Halloween night? Let us know in the comments and stay tuned to Fandom for more honestly, 2 thought-out deep dives into horror history.